Yeah.
The ice.
Hey guys, hey, and welcome to another Team Bad Decisions stream. Today we'll be talking about the requested Necron codex, their lore, kind of where they came from, and from a competition or a gaming table review, what you may see on the table. Out of the background, so it's a little less daunting. So, if you're going to talk about Necrons or the robotic kind of Terminator race of Warhammer 40k. Hey Ryan, how's it going, man? Yeah, look at the bottom. We're like so close to the follower goal right now. It's crazy, but we'll see how it goes. Some people may trickle in here if this is like the last kind of lore list review, and by the end we may be getting a few more followers. But to talk about the Necrons, we got to go back to like the beginning of 40k lore. So the Necrons are arguably one of the oldest races in 40k that have known origins. The Necrotier, which the Necrons didn't always used to be robot Terminator overlords. There was a time where they were just normal people. And in the beginning, the very beginning of 40k lore, like as far back as they've written stuff about it, at the Big Bang of the 60 million years before humanity started, um, there were the Old Ones. The Old Ones were a reptilian society that were the first race to pull themselves out of the primordial ooze. And if you're familiar with Age of Sigmar, the Old Ones essentially are the Old Ones, the lizard folk. They build this, they evolve, they are one with the psychic, like the psychic everything of the universe, and they expand and they seed all these other races. So the old ones, they start the Eldar, they start a race called the Slan, they start this like monkey race that are these high-tech monkey guys, and and then at the same time that these old ones are kind of permeating throughout the universe, the Necrotier, or another humanoid race, they start. And originally, when they start up, they start on a planet that's extremely close to their star and extremely low in their ability of their planet to protect itself from the UV radiation. So it's a deathscape on this planet. Life expectancy is super low. They're constantly being bombarded with solar radiation from the stars that are around them. And the Necrotier, as a society, build themselves up in reverence to their dead, their tomb worlds, essentially. And they grow in a very kind of Egyptian society, honoring their dead, and eventually them and the old ones grow and grow and grow, and they start branching out through technology into going to different planets, which causes them to fight each other, the old ones and the Necrotier. Now, the old ones are, while the Necrotier are more technologically advanced, The old ones have the ability to build these stargates that jump from planet to planet, and almost at every stretch, the old ones outmaneuver the Necrotier. And at this point, this is kind of where the Eldar pick up into the storyline. The old ones are helping the Eldar and the Orcs, which they also start, in their support against the Necrons. But the Eldar at this point are like Exodite, non-technologically advanced, like elven race, barely fledgling. So the Necrotier are losing. They're losing bad. And they turn, there's not a lot of stories about it, but at some point in this, they turn to the Star Gods, or what they call them, the Catan, or Cetan, in help to defeat the old ones. Now, the Cetan are, there's not really a lot of creation stories about them. We don't know exactly where they came from. They've kind of just always been around, and they are there to kind of subjugate the Necrotier, and they promise them immortality in exchange for help defeating the old ones. Now, the old ones end up kind of, through their own hubris and over millions of years, kind of self-imploding, and the Necrotier end up adopting these Cetan gods and overlords, build them their bodies that the models of the Cetan are kind of brought into as we know it, and in their promise of immortality, they're putting their own essences into these robot bodies, which are the Necrons that you see today. Now, with the defeat of the old ones, or the old ones really defeating themselves, the Necrons in their tomb worlds, now encased in their own immortal robot bodies, go to sleep. So you have these massive tomb worlds all going into hyperstasis. And during the fall of the old ones, the beginning of the Eldar, back before we'll go into Eldar in another story, but the Eldar, their first job was to watch the universe for Necrons waking up and to deal with the Necrons when they did. Obviously, Necrons are an army in 40k now, so the Eldar didn't do their job very well, but that's kind of the Eldar Necron hatred that comes on right now. Also, the Necrons, having fought the old ones for so long, have a hatred of the psychic abilities that the old ones possessed, because that's what enabled the old ones to be able to outmaneuver them through their psychic webway portals and gates. So the Necrons are an army known for not dealing, not having, and not wanting any psychic ability whatsoever. So that's kind of a lore dump into the Necrons. If we fast forward to nowadays, which is like 60 million years after the old ones and the Necrotier had their war, these old tomb worlds are starting to reawaken, either by time or people messing with them. Like, for instance, one of these old tomb worlds, a very large one, is actually on Mars, the home world of the Admech. And the tomb world's led by the World Dragon, which is the name of the like emperor god pharaoh of that Necron tomb world. And it's believed that that's how the Admech got a lot of their technological advancements, is from essentially digging into this tomb world and finding the Necron technology and adapting it to the Imperium of Man. That would be entirely heresy, but the Admech is, I mean, they're known to be heretical sometimes in order to get technological advancements. And you'll see that even in the model support now, is that the Admech started out chunky robots, like trash cans on wheels, and slowly over time, they've gotten more sophisticated, more sleek, and more Necron-esque. Even their weapons now, their radiation weapons, all of the new technology and stuff coming out of the AdMech catalog is starting to seem more and more like Gauss weaponry, which is the weaponry of the Necrons. So it's an interesting 40k tidbit thrown in there. Now, if we were going to go into moving away from like the 15-minute lore dump of Necrons and what they are, and move into a list of how I would build, or how one would build Necrons for a game or for a tournament. Now, Necrons are an army where I feel, unlike other armies, have a very big strength in their troop choice. And they also have really good options for stratagems. So that's kind of where I would start in building a Necron list, is that I would start in looking at not only what options they have for maximizing your troops' potency and potential, but also giving yourself enough CP so that you could use your stratagems efficiently, and building around the units that use those stratagems efficiently. Now, this is all speculative, and I'll start this list off with, this is my opinions, and your meta may support a different build. If you're playing against a lot of Tau, or against a lot of Space Marines in particular, in your gaming circles, maybe you build your list slightly differently, and we could talk about that as we go through the units, on what each unit would be good for. And just because I don't pick a unit doesn't mean that the unit's not good. It just means it's probably not good for what I'm trying to target. We'll look at the dynasty, different kinds of dynasties right now. The dynasty choice. You have custom, mixed. We won't touch on that. But the Maynarch dynasty, I'm going to butcher these names because they're all kind of like Egyptian themed names. So it's just not easy for me to pick that up. But the Maynarch dynasty, you got to get a little phlegm in there. Aggressively territorial. They reroll hit rolls of 1 for units with this code whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch, as long as they did not move in the preceding movement phase and they did not disembark from a transport during that turn. So if I'm going to build around this kind of dynasty, I want a very stationary gun line game, and this dynasty would be good for a stationary gunline build and maybe good for a home game. But when you're throwing objectives in there, and especially in tournaments where the objectives are worth more points than just killing your opponent, this is a very stationary dynasty, so that would actually hurt you. You're going to be moving a lot, so you won't necessarily get the reroll ones. But also, that being said, having 2 different battalions to maximize your CP usage allows you to build a supportive gun line in the back that will be rerolling 1s, and have a more mobile choice in the front. So maybe we do that. Maybe we look at making a gun line and a mobile line. But the other choices here, a Mephrit. Mephrit has Solar Fury. Each time a model with this code shoots at an enemy unit that's within half range of its weapon's maximum range, the armor penetration of that weapon's attack is improved by 1. So a -1 comes a -2, so on and so forth. If we just check like the base range, Necron Warrior, it just popped up. I messed it up. Let's check the Immortal first, see if it'll pop up. So their range is 24 inches. So you're looking at, and they're -2 already, so they'll become -3 at 12 inches. 12 inches is kind of close for a unit that you don't necessarily want in close combat to begin with. And then with the Warriors, they're -1, so they'll become -2 at 12 inches. I don't know if, while it's nice, the Mephrit is nice, I think that it's going to be better for a gun line with longer range. So say you had a 48-inch gun, that means you're adding an AP at 24 inches. But really, you want to shoot your ranged weapons at their maximum range whenever possible, because that means you're getting all the bang for your buck, and your opponent is as far away as possible. So having a bonus at half range is good on paper, but I found it hard on practice to actually milk this for as much as a gun line would benefit from the re-rolling ones. Now, the third one would be Nephrecht. Nephrecht has translocation beams. If a unit with this code advances, add 6 inches to its move characteristic for that movement phase instead of rolling a dice. This is good. This is good for high mobile units, so that when they need to get somewhere, it's no longer a gamble. You could know that you're moving 6 inches and plan your moves accordingly. And then models that are affected by the My Will Be Done command ability add 7 inches to its move characteristic instead. In addition, if a unit with this code advances, its models can move across models and terrain as if they were not there. Oh, this is actually really good. For high terrain boards, being able to start behind a wall and then pop out 7 inches or 6 inches through the wall, or start up in a ruin, and instead of going down the ruin and then out, just popping straight out. Oh, that's really tricky and really good. And with the kind of 2 battalion build that we're looking at here, having the 1 gunline build and 1 mobility build for objectives and killing things, having that mobility advancement, real good, real spicy on that. Now, the next one is Nichalaka. Never mind. Just it's a big word with a lot of I's and a lot of L's. They're aggressively territorial. They reroll hit rolls of 1 for units with this code whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch. Is that the same as the Minarch Dynasty? Reroll hit rolls of 1 for this code whenever they shoot, including when firing Overwatch. Okay. And then so there may be a problem in Battlescribe. I don't think both of these are the same, and one of them may be different. Oh, yeah. Thanks for tuning in to talking to myself about playing Necrons. I did play Necrons for a little while, right when they first started, and I was little, and they're the first time I ever played. Some of the stuff that they have is just interesting, and it's fringe, and you don't see the army a lot, so not a lot of people play against it well. But it's a good army. It's not a bad army. I think the problem you see is that their main rule, will be back, or it's called something like will be back. It used to be called that. We'll see what it's called. Reanimation protocols is what it's called now. Because their units have reanimation protocols, they're pointed as if that unit can die and come back. Which means every guy you buy is essentially pointed at 1.5 of its cost, its effective cost. So if your opponent is good at playing against Necrons and doesn't allow you to get 1.5 guys worth out of every one of your guys, you're already playing at a deficit. And on top of that, you're not going to be able to. You have to play the endurance game. You're not going to be able to outshoot anyone off the board, because even when you start, you're paying a premium for every guy that you put on the board, hoping that when he dies, he comes back. But because you're playing a premium, the guy who doesn't pay that premium is going to have more guns and more bodies on the board to start with than you will. Which means turn 1 and turn 2 are going to be extremely important, more so even with Necrons than any other army, because you're going to need to make economic choices that most benefit the models that you're playing with. because losing too many guys too fast and not taking out key threats on the opponent's side of the field will decimate a Necron army. But we'll get through the last two dynasties and we'll move on to HQ choices. So the Novak dynasty, Awakened by Murder. You can reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase for units with this code if they were charged, or perform a heroic intervention. That's nice. You reroll all failed hits, not just ones, but it is only the fight phase. So it's definitely not going to be used for our like ranged support battalion. But if we do a melee heavy, like advanced mid-ranged objective holding battalion, that may be a good choice for that. And then Sawtech, Relentless Advance. If a unit moves with this, or if a unit with this code advances, it treats all ranged weapons it's equipped with as assault weapons until the end of the turn. So Rapid Fire 1 is treated as Assault 1, Heavy D6 is treated as Assault D6. So it's allowing you to, and then in addition, unless it has advanced this turn, a unit with this code does not suffer a penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. So this is good for, let's look for heavy support if you have destroyers. Are destroyers they're in fast attack. Got it. Are their guns heavy? Heavy 3. So if you're going to play a destroyer build, they're 24-inch range guns that are heavy 3, normally hitting on 3s, meaning that the unit can move already and fire heavy weapons without suffering the penalty to its hit rolls. So it's already baked in. The destroyer doesn't need that benefit. The Annihilation Barge is heavy 3 on its cannon, the Gauss cannon. And then if I thought it had something, if it moved half range, it could shoot its guns twice, but well, either way, heavy 3 on the Gauss cannon. So the big gun on this is already assault. It doesn't necessarily care about that. Doomsday Arc, let's look at that. Its weapon is a heavy D6. And it doesn't have a move and ignore heavy weapons. So a Doomsday Arc list would love being able to move and ignore the -1 to hit. How far are they moving? A Doomsday Arc, its movement is variable. It's 12, 8, 4. So it's good if the Doomsday Arc doesn't get shot. It gets to move 12 inches and still fire normally. But as soon as that Doomsday Arc starts taking damage, it doesn't really matter if it moves 4 inches or not. So, like, maybe not heavy destroyers. I'm kind of talking myself out of the Sotec being as good as some of the other ones. Heavy 1 for a Strength 9 IP4 D6 hit, 36 inches. This is definitely a T8 killer weapon. The problem with this is that it already rerolls hit rolls of 1. Does the regular destroyers have reroll hit rolls of 1? Yeah. So, say you wanted a destroyer build. I'm actually kind of leaning towards this destroyer build. It gives you mobility in a 10-inch move with a 24-inch range gun. It gives you heavy 3 shots that ignore the fact that they're heavy when they move. So every turn you move them 10 inches. And you're re-rolling hit rolls of 1 anyway. So you don't need the re-roll hit rolls of 1. You don't need the like, can move and still fire. Maybe you do the Relentless Advance for the advance and still fire, but do I really care? Do I really care if I advance from 10 to an average of 14 inches, and then I fire Assault 3 weapons, but you advance, you're still firing at -1, where I could just move the 10. Yeah, Matt, Battlescribe on the PC. Yeah, you can get Battles. It looks so good on the PC. It's We're going over a Necron list. Thoughts about Necrons. But I think I'm talking myself into. If you just popped in, Matt, we're looking at like a 2 battalion build. This will give it 10 CPs because CPs are really good. One being kind of your ranged detachment that's going to be the fire support for the rest, and the other one being either midfield defensive or midfield aggressive close range. Let me check. That shouldn't have been the case. Let me check to make sure that I'm not. Yeah, if the Twitch thing that went out was wrong, I could fix it, but I'm streaming to the right category. And it does look like I have the right stuff streaming to the right category, right name out. So I'll be okay. I'll look at the. Oh. Yeah. I'll fix that next time the Twitch goes out. Because that game should really be fixed. But yeah. So you really want to like play into your strengths as the Necron player. So one is going to be, I think I'll build it first with the ranged one. That ranged one's actually going to be easier to build. Where I want, what's the difference between the Lord and the Overlord? If we look at it, the Lord is a Staff of Light, and then you could reroll wound rolls of 1 for friendly Dynasty infantry units that are within 6 inches of this model. If the units in configuration are going to be destroyers, we're going to do a destroyer heavy build.